beyond 3D.
Hello, Matt.
Clint, how are you?
Good, thank you. Hey, quick question.
Yeah, sure.
What does YES spell?
Yes.
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 Spells yes?
Yes.
YES.
YES, yes.
Okay. Now,
Yes.
what does EYES spell?
Eyes.
Oh, you're too clever. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's show. I guarantee you somewhere out there someone went, yes. Somebody did. It's okay. I did too.
No. Very interesting. How was your week this week so far, Clint?
Full book.
Full book, huh?
Full
Okay.
dance card this week. It's been really, really busy.
There you go. It's been one of those weeks.
Oh, I know.
We like those weeks, though.
Yeah.
We like being busy.
I missed somebody's birthday
Uh-oh.
last year,
Uh-oh.
and I need to make good on it right now.
Go for it.
Rolf Dieter Heuer. Happy birthday for last September. Oh, sorry, didn't I not mention who he was?
No.
He's the man that puts the word CERN in the word concern.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Rolf's the CEO of the largest particle physics laboratory
yes.
in the world. So just to give him a shout out.
Oh, very nice.
Because CERN this week decided to send a big congratulation to the science team,
Right.
who are popping the champagne at the moment because they've announced they've discovered Einstein's gravitational wave.
Oh, joy bliss.
Yeah, because, Albert, thanks Albert, he discovered it 100 years ago. 100 years ago.
And so they're now verifying?
They're now verifying it 100 years later.
Oh, that's nice.
Gee, wait till they catch up with antigravitics and electromagnetism and how to tap into the 0 point free energy
In another 100
in
years.
another 100 years.
Einstein quote, "Blind obedience to authority is the greatest enemy of the truth."
I'm just contemplating that.
Yeah, well, who's the authority right now? Why do we have to be blindly obedient to what they say when you knew the answer 100 years ago?
Have you ever known me to be blindly obedient?
No, not at all. That's the whole point.
To anybody or anything?
That's the whole point. You don't have to be. But,
No, rage against the machine as much as you can.
Yes, well, that's the science, and that's science for you. They need to verify. Once they say it's true, it's true.
Super Bowl 50 happened too.
Did it?
Yes, I'm not big on American football, but the reason I brought this up,
Okay, what is it?
I contemplated the amount of waste that would be left behind at a Super Bowl event. I then went looking for a solution, and I came across a TED talk. And
Right.
for people that don't know what TED is, it stands for Technology, Entertainment, Design. They're very big in the scientific community. This gentleman called Joshua Klein had this TED talk, and he developed this TED talk with a program where he trained crows to pick up rubbish after sporting events.
Really?
Very, very cool.
Oh.
For peanuts. They literally drop rubbish in a hopper and it releases a peanut. And then they eat the peanut and then go get another piece of rubbish.
Not bad.
Cheap labour.
Not bad.
All I need to do is teach them how to use my lawnmower.
Not going to happen. Not right away, anyway. No. But so Mr. Einstein's had his day again.
Yes.
Only 100 years too late. And what else has been going on?
70-metre UFO orbiting near Earth. NASA cover-up.
It's not a cover-up. They just don't say anything about it. That's all. That's what they usually do.
I got a friend called BT, and his favourite saying is, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, for some.
For some.
But you guys can look on you can look on YouTube and you can actually see a picture or a little film of that 70-meter UFO, and you can make your own kind of decision, I think. But it's very interesting, quite frankly.
Well, it depends on where you go to get your information. The Daily Mail, the Australian Daily Mail, is reporting that this object is actually 230 feet.
Well, it's 70 meters. It is.
No, I know it is. I just wanted to see if I could catch you off guard again.
No, I can do the feet meter thingy.
Yeah, because you got the dual American brain thing.
Yeah, but I still like the feet. The feet makes it easy. I just still see everything in the old imperial system. I don't look at metric at all.
You see, I grew up with metric. I don't know any different.
So for me, it's, I still have to do the conversion in my head. That still happens. But
Anyway, so NASA
yes.
have not said that this object is there at the back of the moon, but it can be quite easily seen.
I think a lot of things can be easily seen up there. Take a telescope, guys, and just point it at the moon for a half an hour. I've said this before, and watch what you see. It is amazing what you can see up there. It's uncanny. But then if you take pictures of it and send it in saying, could you please explain this, you will not get a response. At all. You won't get a response. You can go to the scientific community, and they might decide to give you a response depending on where you went to. But if you were to go to an entity or an agency like a NASA, it would just go by the boards. They would file it in the proper receptacle of containment, and that would be the end of your email, as far as I'm concerned.
Do we have a toilet flush sound effect here somewhere? That's the NASA filing system, isn't it, for those kind of things? Can I just hit a button?
Yeah, it's the way it's going to... Basically, we should get one in, because I'll tell you what, that anytime it comes to NASA and them telling the truth about anything that's going on out there, that's basically what you can do. Just flush it. It's not going to happen.
I'm looking at this footage of this 230 feet / 70 meter object that's moving around the moon. It's insane. It's not a satellite.
No, not at all.
It's massive. That is huge.
It is. When you look at the size of that asteroid, and then you look at the size of the object in question, you would go, wow, that's pretty darn large. What is it? Don't know.
What's the size of the tallest building in Melbourne? Do you know off the top of your head, Mr.
The Eureka?
What's that in feet?
In feet?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Let me Google it.
It's got to be around 800, 900 feet or something like that. It's 89 stories, isn't it?
So we're talking about a third of Eureka Tower? No, it's got to be bigger than that.
No.
What's the Empire State?
Empire State Building is 104 floors.
No, that's how many floors. How many feet is it?
I'm not sure. We'd have to find out. But that's what Mr. Google is for. We can look it up and we can tell you. So look up...
Here we go. Eureka Tower sky deck is 297 meters.
So basically, that's a third.
So a third the size of Eureka sky deck.
Just about. Well, actually a quarter.
Okay. That's not very big.
297, so call it 300 meters for that, and that's 70. So yeah, call it it's a quarter. 25%. That's pretty darn large.
It's pretty darn large. For something that can be seen on there, moving around the moon.
Literally.
From here.
It's very large, but hey.
That's what she said.
It's up to everybody out there to take a look at it, because we're going to put it up on the Facebook page and give us an opinion. You're going to have one. Let us hear it.
Now, we had a very amazing person that we interviewed last week.
Indeed. She was great.
She was amazing.
Tricia Robertson.
And we have the rest of her interview today.
Absolutely. Which will be nice to listen to coming up in a couple of minutes. We're going to get to that as well. But a little bit more news. Beyond 3. D. Your favorite person?
Michio Kaku?
No.
Okay.
No.
My favorite person.
Hillary Clinton.
I was just about to say Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton.
Now. Okay,
Yes.
I'm gonna zip my lip. So this is me zipping my lip.
Okay. Is it? Now, the New Hampshire primary just took place, and Bernie Sanders won it convincingly. But I've done a little bit of research. Now, there's a story going on out there right now that even though Bernie Sanders won that primary with 60% plus of the vote, that Hillary Clinton actually got more delegates out of it than Bernie Sanders did when it comes to the convention that will be coming up. That's not quite true. In fact, right now, based on the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire caucus as well, Bernie Sanders actually has a 4-delegate lead over Hillary Clinton at this point in time. So we will see what happens with the rest of the primaries, and when it gets time to convention, when the convention comes around, that's when all the fireworks will really begin. And that will be very interesting to look at. Most people are still wondering how it is that Hillary Clinton has not been indicted for the email scandal. And here's the answer. I can give you an answer. Your mouth is zipped. I give you an answer that you will love, and let's see whether or not you agree with something like this. How long is... You have to... Nope, wait a minute, Clint, you have to talk now, so you unzip. How long has Hillary Clinton been in politics and in and around Washington, D.C.? Since the 70s?
Half the time, doubled.
Yeah, okay. She was around at Watergate. She was around during all of that. She is extremely well connected.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
She has that much dirt on every single person.
You got it.
On Capitol Hill.
She goes down,
Everybody
they all
goes
go down.
And that is why everybody wants her to cross the line. And that's why I have said for the last 2 years, it's a signed deal. It's done, it's dusted. Everything else that is happening is just political hoo-ha, party popping, fireworks, just a show. It's just a show. Bernie Sanders getting ahead like he did, it's only a diversion to take suspicion off the fact that this is already set in stone.
It's the way it looks.
William Clinton is ready to party like it's 1999 when his missus enters the White House and goes for the job that he once had.
And if she gets that job, what will his next job be?
United Nations.
That's it.
And they will be the most powerful couple on the planet.
You got it.
Brad and Angelina, forget it. I like the fact you laugh at my stupid jokes.
It's factual. That's what's going on there right now.
People think that this is rot. They don't get it. People don't
understand. That the fix is in?
That the fix has been in for decades.
Yeah, it's the way it works. You have to be an insider. It's very rare that an outsider can get into that area and actually do something that's worthwhile. And here's what I would ask all the guys out there that are trying to support Donald Trump right now. Ask yourself a very simple question. If an outsider like Donald Trump says he is, were to win the election and become president of the United States, how long do you think he would actually last having to deal with all of those Washington elite who have been described as, if you want an analogy of what Washington is like, think of Rome during Nero's time.
Backstabbing galore.
Literally. How long do you think a person like that would last?
I'll tell you what they'd do. They'd pass the hat around and everybody would throw a nickel in, and then there'd be a contract out on Trump for about $1 billion zillion.
This is what you got to look at, folks. Look at it from a point of view of business. Now, Donald Trump is a businessman, and he had some success and he's had some failures, but anybody in business can say that. The fact of the matter is, and I will ask you this, who is going to be his vice president? Who is going to be his secretary of state? Who is going to be his secretary of defense? Who is going to take over the treasury? Who will be the people that he is going to surround himself with? Is he going to surround himself with more independent people like him that are Washington outsiders? And being that those people have to be vetted by those insiders, what the heck is going to happen?
Can you really see the Defense Department, the United States Defense Department, saluting the Commander-in-Chief wearing a comb over?
It'll be an interesting year coming up as far as politics is concerned over there, and we'll see what happens. It's an interesting year in politics here right now.
I find it interesting that Hillary Clinton came and visited Adelaide a number of years ago on a very quick overnight visit. Now, I'm going to do a little bit more digging on that, and I'm going to talk about that next time, because
that would be interesting.
There's reasons behind her visiting when she did a little while ago,
right? And
I dare say it's to set herself up for what's currently playing out. They do like to get their ducks in a row, and then they walk away and they wait for things to come to fruition.
Yep, that's understandable.
Plant your seeds.
And allow them to do.
Wipe your hands.
Allow them to do what they're supposed to do.
That's
it. Absolutely. So it's been interesting this week as far as politicking is concerned. I believe they go to the Carolinas, which is the southern end of the spectrum after this, and what will happen with that is all of a sudden Jeb Bush will exert his authority on the Republican side of things, and we'll see whether or not he can get into second place.
We'll hear more from Jeb Bush, I would say, about 2 years into Hillary's term in office. That's when Jeb Bush will come back on the scene in a big way.
Guys, look at what happens in the elections. Look at the guys who run, look at the guys who drop out, and what they're doing is they're just testing the waters a little bit, and then after a year, 2 years, as Clint just said, they come back around again, and they see whether or not they can plant those seeds of doubt in some people's minds and allow them to see that their way is a better way and can possibly run again later. And that's the way it looks like for Jeb Bush right now. So it's interesting, the game they play.
What I just thought about that very second was the interview with Dr. Stephen Greer, where he spoke to a head of a particular country, I think it was from memory, and that person said, if I had have known that this kind of thing was going on, I would have jumped up and down and screamed about it. And he said to them, that's why you weren't clued in. That's why you weren't told about what's going on, because you're not with the program. You're not underhanded. You're not deceptive. You're not willing to take a kickback. If you're an honest person, there is no room for you in politics unless you have backing, you're an independent, and you are clean as a whistle. Even then, in this day and age, I could dig up digital dirt on you, Matt, and make it realistic, and people wouldn't know it was any different.
Well, that's the way of the world today.
It is the way of the world. So, in a way, you have nothing to fear, because even though people can make you say whatever you want to say or do whatever you want to do in a digital way, you can always turn around and go, that's been made. That's not me.
Yep.
And you can have plausible deniability.
Yes.
And can you not see that's the best get-out-of-jail-free card for these political scaremongering and the people that are in this political arena?
Well, it's a game they play. And
don't even get me started on Benghazi.
No, we're not going to go there with that. It's a little too much.
Well, Benghazi is Hillary's nail in the coffin. And there's a movie coming out, it's called 15 Hours, that's based on Benghazi.
Right.
And all of that is because of Hillary. All of that happened because of Hillary Clinton, allegedly.
Well, yeah, more than likely. And the information is out there, but it'll never see the light of day, the true information. You know the way they work?
No.
It'll stay hidden, it'll stay secret until everyone is long gone, and then 100 years from now,
they'll, in 100 years from now, they'll talk about the lone gunman on the grassy knoll and how that never really happened.
Wait a minute, that's about 50 years old now, so that needs at least another 50 years before they can let everybody know what's really going on there as well. So.
But they might not be able to, Matt, because once you start pulling that thread, it could domino a whole chain of other kind of information that they don't want released.
It could, but quite frankly, I think 50 years from now, things will have sufficiently changed enough so that certain things can be released, and people will just say, well, that's the way it was then. We're not going to do anything like that now. We will see. But that's basically been our week. It's been interesting as far as politics in the United States is concerned. The stock market is in the doldrums and not looking any better. Gold is starting to go back up again, so most people are looking for a so-called safe haven.
I wouldn't try Fort Knox because there's no gold in there.
There's none whatsoever in Fort Knox. And if you really want to think about it, folks, when it comes to gold, you're better off buying silver, in my opinion, and it's just an opinion. But gold in and of itself really can't get you very much.
Not when the Chinese have it all.
No.
The Chinese have all the gold that was sitting in Fort Knox.
Yeah, but what are they going to do with it?
Well, they don't have to do anything with it. The thing is, if they're hoarding it all, and the world has none, then all that's going to do is push the price up on its rarity.
Hopefully, but not necessarily, because they could get a few interested people could just say, well, we're going to reject gold and we're going to go for something we have control over, and all of a sudden they'll just talk it down. That's been done before. It'll probably be done again. But I digress.
How much can I buy with this bag of dirt?
Not a heck of a lot. But this is the whole thing. We used to have a joke, and it used to be a man comes up and he had hoarded his gold, and the world had gone to hell in a handbasket. And he walks up and says, well, I have all this gold. I'll trade you some gold for food. And the farmer looks at him and says, that's really nice. Come back in about 2 weeks. Guy comes crawling back to the farmer with his bag of gold. He hadn't eaten in 2 weeks or anything like that. Can't get any water as well. And the farmer looks at him and says, I'll give you the whole bag of gold just for a meal. And the farmer goes, come back in another couple of days. Farmer opens his front door. Man's lying there, deader than a hammer. Picks up the bag of gold, walks inside, and closes the door. That's it. That's what gold is worth. Not a heck of a lot.
Do you know what's worth even less? Diamonds.
Oh, my goodness.
Diamonds are worthless. So worthless. It's a false economy.
Yeah,
there are warehouses the size of the MCG, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, or pick another stadium somewhere in the world, that are boxed from floor to ceiling with diamonds. And the reason they're there is because if they were released onto the market, then the price goes nosedives.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you increase the value of something? You hoard it.
Yeah. But personally, diamonds. They're a girl's best friend, but not mine. Not a fan of diamonds at all.
I'm not a fan of any kind of precious metal.
No, keep it. Just keep that stuff. But anyway, so folks, we are now going to listen to the second half of the interview with Tricia Robertson. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, and we'll see you after that.
Tricia, I do have a question for you, and I'm more so looking for your opinion in the answer. I know that was a bit long-winded, but I'll try and get there. I have seen over the decades science, mainstream science, go from its dogmatic views on the hows and whys and the way the universe works, and implementing and pushing that narrative into the public school system, to now people at my age, I'm 44, so people my age and under, or even people that are switched on, that grew up in the 70s and the 80s, their children are now coming through with a better grasp on the world around them. And they're the people that are coming through into universities and are more so seeking out and leaving behind the dogmatic narratives that mainstream science has presented. And I find that they're now more so leaning towards the paranormal. Do you find, and this is my question, do you find that that's happening more so across the world?
Oh yes, I think so. From my own experience, definitely. Yes, I think people are beginning to think for themselves, definitely. And of course, with the internet now, there's so much information available. Mind you, a lot of the information available is crap, if I can say crap on the program. But
you may indeed.
I could say worse, but I'll say crap. And that is the whole problem with the paranormal scene. The whole problem is there's such a lot of rubbish out there. There's people making money out of it, and it's really not about that. It's about making us realise how important it is that we lead our life here in as good a manner as possible to get a better place when you go up there, really. But you should be doing it for the right motives, obviously. And it's fascinating.
It is fascinating, and it's wonderful.
Science has always been like that, of course. Someone comes up with an idea, like Galileo. He was thought to be a heretic when he came up with these ideas about the movement of the sun and the moon and the earth, etc. Galileo was pilloried for his ideas, and of course it was shown later he was correct. And then when Crick found DNA, you could separate DNA for human beings, the scientists eventually said, oh well, it's all very well, but this will never be of any use at all. And I mean, there's nothing more useful nowadays than DNA. Science has always resisted the paradigm of the time. What's there at the time? They've always thought, well, a true scientist wouldn't do that, but a scientist with an axe to grind will say, no, that's not possible. It's becoming more and more prevalent that more scientists, as I say, of all denominations, are beginning to look at survival. They might not want to look into ghosts and buildings, etc., which is fine, because ghosts and buildings is often nothing at all to do with survival, as is some poltergeist activity, nothing to do at all with survival. It's to do with us as human beings, because we are very wonderful creatures. We have such powers and talents, latent ones within us, that we don't realise we have. We don't seem to realise the power of thought. And the older I get, and the more I look into it, the whole thing is based on your intention and motivation and emotion. Emotion has to come into it for any of these things to work at all. And it does work. It does. It definitely does.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's just amazing what is going on right now. Clint was right in his question that he asked. A lot of the young people now, whether you want to call them crystal children, whether you want to call them star children, they're coming in and they have
don't give them. Don't do the fancy names. It doesn't work. No.
For you, it doesn't work. But a lot of people out there recognize the fact that there's something going on, and what happens is people want to label something going on. So you can call it compartmentalization. You can call it a compartmentalization. But what they're trying to do is they have their heart in the right place, and what they're trying to do is come up with a way of describing what these younger people coming through now, these souls coming through now, are going through. And that in and of itself, in my opinion, is worthy of talking about. It has nothing whatsoever to do with the name in and of itself. It has to do with the fact that there is energies flowing through this planet right now that are taking souls to a higher level, and that is what it really comes down
and
to.
you know, the more I look at, you might be in a cafe or something like that, a restaurant, and you see young children, even babies about a year and a half, and you look at them and you just can see the knowledge behind those eyes. They're all definitely much, much more aware than any of us were at that age. The knowledge is there. And, of course, one or two of these children, of course, may well be reincarnated souls as well. But people will argue about that, but that's an absolute fact as well. As far as I'm concerned, there's no doubt some people can be reincarnated, and they're bringing that wisdom back with them.
Tricia, I have a question in regards to poltergeists, and what I would like to know is, when a medium sits down to do a reading or to convey some information or to pass things on, how do they actually know that the person they're talking to is the person that they're supposed to be sharing that with?
Well, they don't. They don't. I have a great saying that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. It's only by looking at what type of evidence is brought through that you can make your best possible judgment if it is that person. The SPR in London had this problem many years ago when one of their greatest skeptics, Richard Hodgson, died. Now, Hodgson was he was a skeptic, but to his credit, he would investigate things, and he was never totally convinced of survival until he came through various mediums to talk to surviving people. And Hodgson himself, at the end, apart from giving lots of details about himself, at the end he was getting frustrated with this very question that you're asking. And he said to the people on earth through the medium, well, if I'm not Richard Hodgson, he never lived. He was just so frustrated. It's very difficult. It's like talking to someone on the telephone. Okay, how do you know I'm Tricia Robertson? You know I'm Tricia Robertson because of the things I say, the way I say it, the information that I have. And it's like that with spirit people. But there are what we call the cosmic jokers. For some reason, they come through and impersonate other people. And they're usually from a lower level up there. Because not everybody in the spirit world is a nice person, unfortunately. There's not a good answer to that question.
Well, Hodjo was an Australian, so he was born in Melbourne, Richard Hodgson.
He was an Australian, I think, yeah?
Yes, he was. He was born in Melbourne.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. But that information that you've just shared with us is exactly what I was thinking.
No, that's why, I mean, once again, not being a Christian, but there are certain things in there that are correct. One of the things it says in the Bible is, test ye the spirits to see that they are of God. And you can't go wrong with that. You have to test the spirit to see if it is the person they say they are. Now, in the case, if we go back to my murder case, the information was given in a personalised manner. The medium could describe the girl, clothing and all that. And it was such a three-way conversation, and it was in the moment that the best possible answer is that girl was giving information, because, to be honest, nobody else would be interested in that. But sometimes, in circles, etc., you get people coming through saying, you know, I was Napoleon or Queen Victoria. That's a lot of crap. There's no way Napoleon and Queen Victoria and people are coming through everyday circles unless you've got some very, very good information to say otherwise. So this is the whole problem. We have to, and I can see that you, Matt, Clint and myself, we discern. It's all about discernment. Discern what you're doing and make the best possible judgment from that. But the good thing about it is if you do it long enough and you speak to enough people and you have enough experiences, and everybody should have their own experience. There's no substitute for experience, but in absence of experience, then you should read the best possible documentation of things that have happened from people that you trust, and that's the only way to go.
We do say on this show that just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
That is the saying. That is one of the sayings on this show. It's the way we think of things.
So William Crookes said, "I didn't say it was possible. I just said it happened."
I like that.
That's very
Very
good.
similar.
That's very, very good. Well, the quote I love to say to people when it comes to any religious discipline is what Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, which was abandon religion and follow me. That to me says it all when it comes to religion. I think of things like religions, I think of all of that as a catalyst. You need it for a period of time, and then you cannot rely on it. You have to move beyond that. And that's what this is coming to.
Dalai Lama said something very similar the other day. It was very similar to what you said. Forget religion, concentrate on spirituality.
That's literally what it comes down to. I mean, if you think about religion as a study per se, what it is a way for people to get the gist of an idea. You do not continually beat on that. Where we were told, I lived in India for a while, we were told abandon the ceremonies, forget about the ceremonies, do your meditations, do your contemplations, meditate on stillness and awareness, and see what happens. Watch what happens for you. Your experiences are valid. This is what it comes down to, and that's literally what you just said. You need to have experiences yourself, I believe. Clint is of the same ilk. He knows that you have to experience things yourself.
I experience as much as I possibly can.
As you possibly can. The other thing you have to do is you have to find people that you trust, that have done the research, and you know that because of this research and because of the way that person is and because of the ilk of that person, because of the heart and the head of that person, you know the information that they are telling you is valid. You do not need even a scientific method. You can look into their eyes, you can look into their heart, and you can tell what they are telling you is an experience that they have had. This is what they've done. And when you have that, that's really all you need. And you can go on from there.
You pay your money, you take your choice, and it's up to you, how you go with it. As I say, if I talk to an audience of 200 people, I start off by saying that there's 200 people in this room and you will all have a different background, you will all have different ideas, and after I have finished in an hour and a half, you will all take something different away from what I have said or told you. And that's the way it has to be. We're all different, and you have to work at the level you're comfortable with. My worry about the whole thing is, we know there's good stuff, and you and I, we're working at the good end, but it's the 80% of crap at the bottom that actually worries me and gives us all a bad name, and it makes it harder for people like myself, Archie Roy, David Santana, etc., to appear credible, although more and more people are realising this is the one that's correct, this is right. But it's hard. I don't know how we get rid of the rubbish. And you must have it in Australia as well. You must have the woo-woos. You must have the lovey-lighty people.
Oh, you definitely do. You definitely do. But the fact of the matter is the work you've done basically is the reason we're talking to you. Because there is the truth that comes through it. And that is what is important. And people pick up on that. People can feel it within their hearts. They can feel it within their heads. And this is the reason we need to get your words out to the people here in Australia, because of the fact that we do not want them dealing with the so-called trash in this end of in that spectrum. We don't need that. We need people like you who are doing the good work, and we're trying to get that word out for you. So now, as far as
I'm sure you must have very good mediums. Have you got good mediums in Australia?
Oh my goodness, it's insane. Some of the mediums we have done here are just absolutely spectacular, and I'm talking about people like you're talking about. It has nothing whatsoever to do with money. It has everything. They have information that needs to be given, and they give it.
Can you give me any names, or you don't want to do that?
I'm allowed to. I will do that off air. I will not do that on air.
Okay.
There's a reason for that, but I will happily give you some.
And I might be setting up some long-term, long-distance experiments, so it would be good to have those names too.
I can give you a couple of names that would...
Very quickly, I can't say the person's name, but there's a professor in a hospital, a professor of primary care in England, who is wanting to do some experiments with mediums. I don't know whether to say it or not. I think he's possibly a bit naive, but he's asking for my help to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way we can do this is to do it either by Skyping, by email, or some sort of phone thing by which you can take people that don't know each other at all, etc., and do the calculations on it. But it's interesting to me that this professor, primary care in a hospital, is wanting to do this. That's encouraging.
I'd actually say, Tricia, that a gentleman such as him who is working in primary care in hospital would actually probably see and come in contact with lots of different entities as well.
Sorry, your voice is going away again, I'm afraid.
No, that was Clint. That's no problem. What's going on?
Right, okay. Well, your voice is going
No
away.
problem. Well, here's the thing. What Clint just said is a person that is dealing in that vein, in that work, would come across a lot of people and a lot of situations where he would be in contact with those kind of energies.
Oh, yes. I gave a talk last Tuesday to a group of people, and a lot of them didn't know me at all. And at the end, you can always tell if it's a success if they don't want to go home, and they didn't want to go home. And there was this person I didn't know, a woman, came up and she said to me, she said, you mentioned near-death experience. She said, is it common for doctors and nurses to have experiences with the patient at a near-death time? And I said, oh yes, that's very common. Dr. Peter Fenwick has written books on the near-death experience, not for the patient, but for the doctors and nurses who are standing there watching the person die, because they have lots of experiences there. I said, are you a nurse? She said, no, but my daughter is. And then she shyly smiled and walked away, and I thought, I would love to talk to you and hear all of your daughter's experiences as a nurse with dying people, because they do, as you probably well know, that's true.
No, it's absolutely true, and I will give you the name of a couple of people, one of which is a psychiatric nurse that can give you some very interesting information in that field, and would actually be a very good case for the study you're talking about. So that is no problem whatsoever. We can do that when we're done here. What I did want to do is give you the opportunity to plug, for lack of a better term, your books right now, because the books are very interesting, and I think a lot of people could get a lot of benefit from them.
Well, that's the reason. In a way, people say to me, how are your books going? And I say, it doesn't really matter. My reason for writing the books was to get all of this information out to people who do not know what's in them. And that's no nonsense. And I say, I wrote the first book as more or less an introduction, but it's all very pragmatic. There's no airy-fairy stuff in it at all about different forms of mediumship, all sorts of paranormal activity, and there are arguments in it as to why some things are not paranormal as well. For example, like poltergeist activity, some poltergeist activity. And in the second book, I go that bit further, looking at inspiration, automatic writing, obsession, possession, reincarnation. And I also do a little bit about paranormal healing in the form of psychic surgery. But all I can say is, these are my experiences. There's nothing in there but the truth. There's loads of things there that people will not know. And the English Church has a motto which says, to your belief, add knowledge. And that is where I'm coming from. To whatever you think just now, add a little more knowledge to that, because none of us know anything. When I start to do a lecture, I always say, don't think you're going to leave here knowing everything, because you'll go away here asking more questions than when you started. And that's a fact, because I'm at the stage now, I can only tell you what I've done, but I know there's so much more that I do not know, and that could change tomorrow if something else happened. I do think quantum physics might be one way forward to explain the differences in consciousness, but maybe not. Might be some other form of energy that we really at this point in time know nothing about. But everybody that's read the books loves them. You can go to Amazon, you can go to, I think it's Barnes & Noble you've got there. You can go anywhere, you can read the crits, and the crits are coming from everybody, in fact even people that really know a lot about scientific research. So enjoy, and I can say no more. I'll leave that with you. Thank you.
Not a problem, Trish, not a problem at all.
Thank you, Trish. I have one last question. Are you, I wouldn't say looking forward to it, but are you ready to embrace passing over and dying yourself?
Not to the minute. Not to the minute. But I think when the time comes, it will be absolutely fine. But at the moment, I think I've written these 2 books and that was it. But I keep getting told from various people who don't know each other, there's at least one other book. And I say, well, you'll have to tell me what it is because I don't know what it is, but I'm assured. In fact, I had the most amazing message at a public meeting last Saturday, which I obviously won't go into, but I had the most amazing message last Saturday from psychical researchers that I've worked with in the past. It was mind-blowing, but it was only personal. It was personal to me, and in other words, what they were saying was they're making more work for me to do. So I think I've got a good few years yet. But yes, when the time comes, it shouldn't worry me at all. No, I'm sure it'll be lovely.
That's fantastic. And we here at Beyond 3D, Tricia, would love to share your stories and your experiences again in the future.
Now, Tricia, thank you very much for spending some time with us. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And
well, it was different. There were very good questions, different questions, but that's good.
Well, the thing is, when that other information and when that other book comes out, we will definitely invite you back because that's the kind of information that people need to know, and it is the thing that we want to get out to our listeners. So, Tricia
when
Robertson...
When I find out what the 3rd book is, I'll let you know because at the moment I haven't a clue.
Nope, it'll come to you. When the time is right, that is the time, and you have to wait until that point. So, Tricia Robinson, it has been an absolute pleasure spending time with you, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tricia. Bye-bye.
Well, Clint, what did you think of that?
Not worthy. I don't feel like I was worthy to talk to that woman.
It's amazing, as I said earlier, when you get a person that has that scientific and mathematical background and they do the work and the research and come up with that kind of information, it's an absolute pleasure to be able to talk to people like that because of the credibility, because of the merit that they have, and because you can hear it in their voice when they're talking about something from experience from the heart and the head. It really comes across.
You and I have spoken to enough people over the years to know when you're hearing caca and when you're hearing the truth.
Exactly.
It resonates in the timbre of a person's voice.
It does.
Tricia was amazing. Like I said, I didn't feel worthy to ask her the questions that I had because she is such... I'd call her like somebody who is at the gateway of, and what's behind her on the other side of the gate are all the authentic mediums that she knows. And she's like the gate master for contact with those mediums.
Indeed.
And yeah, we were incredibly privileged to talk to her this week.
Absolutely. So, folks, thank you once again for tuning in to this show.
Next week,
we're going to take it a teeny bit further. We are going to go from Scotland a little bit south to London, and we're going to talk to another person who you will find quite interesting, and we will put up some information about her on the Facebook page. So, Clint, thank you.
No, Matthew, thank you.
And everyone out there, thanks for listening. We will catch you next week for another edition of Beyond 3D.
Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.